you to all of the participants and presenters, and I hope that we will have a productive discussion. So without further ado, we can begin with our first presenter, Željana Pjevalica from Women's Association Priroda in Bratunac, and she will present the Climate Change Resistance Plan for 2026-2029 adopted by the Municipality of Bratunac. Željana, the proverbial floor is yours.
Dobar dan I od mene. Hvala vam na
Greetings to you all. Thank you for the entrusted opportunity to present, as you said, the success story of the Women Association Priroda in partnership with the Women Association. Implemented this project within our major network for gender responsible budgeting, and I would like to thank CPCD from Sarajevo, who directly provided us support, not only financial one, but logistic support as well, to implement this project. This resilience plan, climate changes resilience plan, I prepared my presentation. I don't know if someone will start the presentation or not. Or you just want me to speak like this? Never mind. Anyhow, the plan, above all, has a first introductory part, legislation in the area of climate changes in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republic of Srpska. Since Bratunac is within Republic of Srpska, maybe some things are different than the Federation. Mostly we use sources from the resilience plan of Bosnia and Herzegovina that has 3 gender responsive indicators, and the legislation in Bosnia and Herzegovina treats this area under climate in all regulations, and that was not necessary. I have to say, after the adoption of the plan at the local level of the Municipality of Bratunac, Republic of Srpska, adopted the climate changes law. Of course, we used the draft of the law, of that law, when we drafted our plan, and after that we did not have to change many things. And the law on climate changes says that the local self-government should draft a plan to adjust to climate changes. So before that, it's not yet it's a resilience plan, how we call it. And the law also says that local self-government should draft this plan, and every 15th of March they should provide to ministries measures that were undertaken and in what extent these measures were implemented, what activities within these measures were implemented, and it prescribes a reporting form for the measures that were implemented for all local self-government units. Immediately after the adoption of the law, we had a meeting of the working group that drafted the plan, and we established that, in essence, there was no need to add to change anything within the plan, given that we had an opportunity to adjust it with the draft law that was adopted as it was drafted. So this is about the legislation. The second part of the plan is titled Trends of Climate Changes. This is about the trends at the global level, and it also states that in the past 18 years the temperature increased for 1.4 degrees of Celsius, more than 4.8 degrees in the last 80 years, and rainfalls, number of rainfalls increased, and it caused different. There are different risks of floods, not only floods from major rivers, but also from torrents. The Municipality of Bratunac, in a number of occasions, had major floods in the past 10 years, usually due to these torrents, as I said, of our streams. And in the past year, namely this year, in March, Drina River flooded and caused major damage in the area around the river, mostly fields and houses that were flooded. And the third part of the plan is called Climate Changes and Gender. Namely, we used here mostly researches of UN Women from 2020, and also some our observations. When I say our observations, from NGOs working in this area, mostly it's Maya and Priroda, related to gender equality, and I don't know any organization dealing with climate changes and dealing with gender responsive budgeting in this area. So we used some of our analysis.
Što smo mi na samom na terenu utvrdili. Tom analizom na globalnom nivou analiza od 130 različitih studija.
Analysis of 130 different studies. So it concluded that women and girls faced with serious health issues due to climate changes. Their health is deteriorated due to limited access to services and healthcare, as well as increase of risk related to health of mother and child. And this is something that is at a global level. Also, research from 2021. This is a survey on 10,000 people in 19 countries. It has shown that women are more ready than men to make changes in their life, to adapt to climate changes. They're carriers of local production. So they're carrying local production. They recycle more. So you know that we are knitting more and doing handicrafts, and we build new items from that, and we recycle more. And due to economic crisis and due to health,
smanjujemo u svojim domaćinstvima unos mesa u prehranu. Naravno smanjuje emisiju CO2 i žene više rade na ozelenjavanju prostora, znači na uređivanju svojih bašti, svojih dvorišta sa cvijećem, zelenilom i tako dalje. Zbog svega gore, zbog svih ovih iznesenih podataka koja su zasnovana na različitim istraživanjima, zaista je neophodno potrebno da analize vezane za klimatske promjene uključuju rodna pitanja, da se u procesima vezanim za klimatske promjene identifikuju specifične potrebe i prioriteti žena i muškaraca. Tako da smo mi, radna grupa koju je formirao načelnik opštine na samom početku ovog projekta, na samom početku te kampanje koju smo mi vodili za izradu ovog plana, mi smo odlučili zbog specifičnosti područja opštine Bratunac da u stvari radimo na 4 oblasti vezano za utjecaj klimatskih promjena, a to je poljoprivreda, stanovanje, zdravlje ljudi i turizam. Te 4 oblasti...
Željana,
Da?
Željana, I'm so sorry. I apologize that I have to interrupt you, but considering we're very short on time, I would just ask you if you could finish with the next sentence. Thank you so much, and I apologize again.
Ja se stvarno izvinjavam, ali ja ne mogu završiti sa jednom rečenicom jer sam tek počela, a čini mi se da mi nije isteklo ni 10 minuta. Ali evo, mogu odmah preći na mjere, odnosno na ciljeve ovoga, pa ako hoćete. Znači, generalni cilj ovog akcijnog plana je da se smanji utjecaj klimatskih promjena i poveća otpornost na klimatske promjene stanovnika opštine Bratunac, pa onda imamo 4 cilja. Srednjoročna, jedan je ovom prezentacijom, da se osigura razvoj poljoprivredne proizvodnje kroz aktivnosti prilagođavanja. U tom cilju imamo 4 mjere: izmjene sortimenata, uvođenje tolerantnih vrsta, rekonstrukcija, izgradnja, održavanje sistema za navodnjavanje, održavanje sistema protivgradne zaštite i jačanje svijesti i edukacije poljoprivrednih proizvođača. Svaka od ovih mjera ima rodno odgovorne indikatore i svaka od ovih mjera ima pored indikatora izvor finansiranja i u tom izvoru finansiranja imamo budžet opštine između ostalog. I moram da kažem da je u okviru ovog srednjoročnog cilja već nekoliko aktivnosti provedeno, prije svega vezano za uvođenje tolerantnih vrsta i sorti u poljoprivredi. Udruženje Maja je pokrenulo zaštitu kukuruza osmaka koji je tolerantniji na klimatske promjene od drugih vrsta kukuruza. Također, što se tiče sistema
concerning the irrigation system within the
privredu, izdvajaju se sredstva za sisteme za navodnjavanje i moram da kažem da imamo skoro 40% žena koje su dobile te sisteme iz budžeta. Drugi cilj je smanjiti utjecaj klimatskih promjena na stambeni sektor.
Se odnosila na stambeni sektor, odnosno na nekoliko merke.
Rehabilitation of housing units, including insulation of houses, heating systems, and greening of public spaces. Within this objective, some activities were implemented. You have to know that this plan was adopted in December, and we are now in June, and this is very good results, primarily within the budget of Bratunac municipality. We have a line for rehabilitation of housing units. We cannot follow there. We have some criteria that are gender responsive, but owners of housing units are usually men. This is some other issue, but we also have indicators who is living within these families that are being allocated, so gender disaggregation for the persons who receive these funds and within their families. The third objective is to decrease the effect of climate changes to health situation of Bratunac residents, so public awareness about the effects of climate changes, decrease of effects of allergens, and following the quality, monitoring the quality of water. Also, public utility companies in charge of this measure. This is municipal public utility company, and health center is also involved, and major surfaces are covered with the allergen grass, and through this project we had some activities that are related.
Stanovnika o utjecaju klimatskih promjena. I četvrti cilj je cilj koji je vezan za turizam, osigurati razvoj turizma kroz aktivnosti prilagođavanja na klimatske promjene u opštini Bratunac. I moram da kažem da je to jedini sektor, odnosno turizam je jedini sektor koji na području opštine Bratunac u stvari klimatske promjene su donijele dobrobit. Radi toga jer naš turizam se ne zasniva na riječnom turizmu i na brdsko-planinskom turizmu, gdje broj toplih dana naravno da povećava broj turista koji dolaze u našu opštinu, a isto tako imamo turističku organizaciju, odnosno direktora turističke organizacije koji je vrlo senzitivan, tako da evo sada imamo već raspisano nekoliko konkursa vezano za žene koje žele da pokrenu određene turističke djelatnosti, ne samo seoski turizam, već uopšte i agroturizam i tako dalje. Ovo je najkraće što sam mogla. Ja se stvarno izvinjavam, nadam se da nisam preko 10 minuta govorila.
It's no problem, Željana. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. It was very interesting.
Vaše
And of course,
uvide, to je interesantno i pozivam sve vas.
And of course to read the plan for the climate change resistance for Municipality of Bratunac. Our second presenter is Nadica Majirova from NGO Polymath, and she will present the adopted climate change strategy for the Municipality of Bogdanci. Nadica, welcome.
Здраво на сите. Ви благодарам за можноста да го представиме нашиот стратешки план за климатски промени.
Thank you very much to everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present our climate action plans. Do I need to share my screen?
If you have the presentation, you can share the screen. Yes, we can see the presentation. I believe that everyone can see it.
Da, možemo da je vidimo. Vidite isto to? The presentation and the preparation of the strategy for the climate change of the municipality of Bogdanci, that's 2026-2033. It was within the project for inclusion of the gender aspects in the local policies regarding climate changes and the environment protection. Of course, within the municipality of Bogdanci. The general objective of the project is contribution to the national efforts for inclusion gender-based question in the planning processes for climate change and environment policy. Specific objectives is increasing the participation of the civil sector in the municipality of Bogdanci in the creation of policies within the field of climate changes with inclusion of gender aspect and increase of the gender sensitivity regarding the climate changes and environment protection on a local level. Our target group was the administration of the municipality of the Bogdanci, the Commission for Equal Opportunity, the Council of the municipality of Bogdanci, civil organization, public institutions, and representatives of the business sectors. Activities that were taken here, and I just want to give you a short introduction. In accordance with the draft law for climate action, which is in its final adoption phase, the Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning has adopted a long-term strategy for climate changes of the Republic of North Macedonia with a vision until 2050, and the national the units, the local municipalities have the opportunity to adopt their own strategic objectives, plans regarding climate actions and climate changes.
Активностите кои што ги превземавме во рамки на проектот кои што беа предвидени се анализа на стратегијата за климатски промени на општина Богданци 2014-2020 година. Ова стратегија беше општина Богданци беше една од
This strategy, I mean, the municipality of Bogdanci was one of the first municipalities in the countries in 2014 that created a strategy for climate changes. And even though the organization, I mean, we were the implementers of that project within which the strategy was implemented. We had also trainings for
од изминатите 12 години веќе имаат и подобра посеопфатна димензија, така да сакавме да направиме анализа за да можеме да ги подобриме, да ја подобриме оваа стратегија која што сега ја изработивме во текот на изминатата година. Имавме обуки за родова еднаквост и вклучување на родовата перспектива во стратешките планови и програми за животна средина и климатски промени и одржување на работилници за креирање на стратегијата за климатски промени. Главните препораки од анализата на стратегијата, чија што цел беше да се утврди дали улогата на жените е доволно препознаена во мерките и активностите, беа влијанието на последиците од климатските промени врз мажите и жените, допринос кон климатските промени, различни способности за ублажување на климатски промени на индивидуално ниво, перцепции и ставови на жените и мажите кон климатските промени, влијанија на предложените и спроведени политики и мерки врз мажите и жените, балансирано учество на жените и мажите во донесување на одлуки, а најважно е да се соберат и анализираат родово сензитивни податоци, да се консултираат жени, мажи, корисници, представници на граѓанско општество за проблемите и решенијата. Да се формулираат мерки и активности кои ќе обезбедат учество на жените, особено како корисници на програмата, но и во процесите на донесување на одлуки. Да се предвидат родово чувствителни индикатори и да се примени родово одговорно финансирање. Процесот на креирање на стратегијата се одвиваше преку 4 работилници, кои што 4 работилници, во рамки на првите 2 работилници беа одржани обуки за концептите на родова еднаквост и нивната поврзаност со климатските промени, како и родовата перспектива во стратешките планови за климатски промени и заштита на животната средина. На кој начин ги ангажиравме, да кажам, локалните засегнати страни, преку директни контакти со Комисијата за еднакви можности, представници до Советот, значи се трудевме да ги поканиме сите представници на јавни институции, на бизнес секторот, се трудевме да го прилагодиме времето на одржување на работилници, да им одговара на сите, за да имаме што поголем број на учесници во самото креирање. А целта на комбинираното одржување на првите во рамки на првите 2 работилници се одржаа обуки, како што кажа веќе. Целта беше експертите кои што се за родова еднаквост и експертите за климатски промени кои што ни помагаа во изработката на стратегијата, да можат взаемно да разменат знаења околу собствените значи, оние за климатски промени да се запознаат малку подобро со родовата перспектива, а овие за родова перспектива малку подобро за климатски промени. Целата стратегија се работеше преку методот на зелена агенда. Тоа е карактеристичен метод кој што не тргнува со дефинирање на проблеми, туку со дефинирање на вредности во заедницата, па понатаму преку целиот процес се стигнува до конкретните мерки и активности кои што треба да се реализираат. Последната работилница беше предвидена за јавна расправа, акцијскиот план беше достапен уште во рамки на изработка на стратегијата за сите учесници, додека нацрт верзијата на стратегијата беше достапна 30 дена за коментари од јавност. Анализа на состојбата опфаќа анализа на состојбата, опфаќа на кој начин општина Богданци, која што се наоѓа во југоисточниот дел на Република Македонија, во регион со изразено континентално медитеранско влијание, се карактеризира со жешки и суви лета, благи зими и релативно ниски годишни врнежи. Така да, како климатски ризици се ги дефиниравме зголемени температури, почести суши, недостаток на вода за наводнување, зголемен ризик од пожари, загрозување на земјоделското производство. Како ранливи сектори, општина Богданци, која што е, кажав веќе во многу чувствителен дел на Македонија, се земјоделството, водните ресурси, енергетиката, здравството и биодиверзитетот. Порастот на годишните температури може да донесе зголемен стрес кај населението, особено кај простарите деца, кај постарите лица, децата и хронично болните. Зголемена потрошувачка на електрична енергија за ладење, негативно влијание врз земјоделските култури и така натаму. Сушите го намалуваат приносот на земјоделските производи, деградација на почвите и го зголемуваат ризикот од пожари, недостаток на вода за наводнување прави притисок врз површинските и подземните води, системите за наводнување, водоснабдителните капацитети и земјоделското производство. Зголемениот ризик од пожари може да донесе деградација на шумските и земјоделските површини и така натаму. Сите овие ризици се условени од климатските промени и во здравството може да донесат топлотни бранови, зголемени здравствени проблеми и притисок врз здравствените установи, каде што се загрозени постарите лица, децата, хронично болните и социјално загрозените категории. Врски помеѓу климатските промени и родовата еднаквост. Значи, констатиравме дека жените имаат клучна улога во земјоделските активности.
I apologize.
Слушам?
I'm sorry, we have already reached the 10-minute limit, so if you could just wrap it up in the next minute, I would be very, very grateful. Thank you.
Во ред, на кратко. Значи, направивме врски помеѓу климатските промени и родовата еднаквост кај жените и кај мажите, со тоа што ги констатиравме кои се карактеристични и ранливи работи за жените и мажите. Значи, кај жените констатиравме зголемена потреба од здравствена и социјална грижа, затоа што сушите и топлотните бранови имаат сериозни здравствени импликации, кои што ги погодуваат жените како главни носители на грижата за деца, стари лица, болни членови на семејството. Во услови на ограничени ресурси се создава дополнителен притисок и ја зголемува ранливоста на жените. И зголемениот ризик од сиромаштие е предизвикан од нестабилните земјоделски приноси кои што несразмерно ги погодуваат жените. Влијанието врз мажите се екстремните температури, земјоделските загуби, зголемен ризик од пожари и екстремни настани, при што се прави има притисок врз психолошки и социјален притисок врз нив, тие се ангажирани во интервенции при пожари, поплави, така што имаат директни безбедносни ризици. И сметаме дека интеграцијата на родовата еднаквост во плановите за климатски промени не представува прашање на социјална правда, туку и на економска ефикасност и долгорочна одржливост. Развојните цели се поделени според вредностите, односно тематските групи кои беа дефинирани од страна на учесниците во креирањето на стратегијата. Само да ги прочитам на крај. Значи, локални земјоделски производи, локални водни ресурси, енергетски потенцијали и културни и природни вредности. Во ред. Благодарам.
Thank you, Nadica. Thank you so much. I'm sure that we will have time for discussions and comments later. Now I would like for Daniela.
Mulțumesc, sper să avem posibilitatea să vorbim pe parcursul acest sesiuni. Iar acum o invit pe doamna Daniela Răileanu, care va prezenta accesul la infrastructură de apă și canalizare în raioanele Drohia, Sângerie și Glodeni. Voi împărtăși ecranul. Bună ziua tuturor!
But I can do it. Can you see it?
Vedeți ecranul?
No, we can only see your downloads folder.
Numai folderul cu descărcări a fișierelor.
Maybe Alexandru can help me.
Daniela, ai probleme cu share
Da,
screen?
da.
Da, puși fac un share screen.
Thank you.
Mulțumesc
Thank you
colegului.
again for the
Încă o dată vă
opportunity to
mulțumesc
speak
pentru
about our
posibilitatea
project and the results
pentru a
we
vorbi
achieved.
proiectului nostru și
Our
rezultatele
project
care
focused on access to
le-am
water and sanitation in three districts
am
from
avut.
the northern Moldova, Sângerie, Glodeni and Drohia. And it
Noi am
was done
avut
in
posibilitatea să
gender and
aplicăm
climate
aceste
perspective. Next one, please.
aplicăm acest proiect în ceea ce privește
for us because in the rural communities, the drought increasingly affected the waters, and there is insecurity and pressure on local water sources and on the wells. Also, at the same time, women often carry the daily burden of limited access to water. And sanitation, because many household and care tasks depend directly on clean water and functional sanitation. So our key question was not only if whether public investments are being made, but whether these investments actually reach vulnerable households and respond to local needs. Next one. To understand how effectively public investments respond to these needs, we use several methods. We send official requests for information to the main institution involved in the management of water and sanitation services. Also, we analyzed public budget and public projects for these services and the investment project in water and sanitation, especially those funded in the past 5 years. In addition, we organized the 3 focus groups in Drohia, Sângerie, and Glodeni. This helped us to combine official data with lived experience of local communities. I will pass quickly through this slide because it contains detailed district data. The key point is that the 3 districts have different numbers of localities and different levels of access. Also, if a locality is connected to a water network, it doesn't mean automatically that all the households are connected. In some cases, the network exists at the locality level, but household connection remain limited. The next one. This slide shows the main gaps very clearly. The blue bars show access to water, and the orange bars shows access to sanitation. So in Sengeri, around 70% of localities have access to water, and only 6% have access to sewerage. In Drokia, the percent is lower. 63% of localities have access to water, and only 5, the lowest level, have access to sanitation. And also in Gloden, only 17% of localities have access to water. So the key finding is very simple. The gap between water and sanitation remains significant. And it's important also to mention that water without sanitation solves only part of the problem. Poor sanitation can increase risk of health, groundwater, soil, and the environment. Next one. The gender dimension was essential for our research. Women represent a slight majority of the population in all 3 districts, but the central issue is not only demographic, it's about unpaid domestic work and care. Women are often responsible for cooking, washing, cleaning, childcare, and care for elderly family members. And all the tasks depend directly on access to water and sanitation. And limited access to these services can increase women's unpaid work, stress, and time poverty. That's why water and sewerage investment should be planned with a gender perspective, not only as a technical infrastructure. Next one. I will mention only one key point from this slide. Affordability is also a major issue. For a consumption of 10 cubic meters of cold water, a family in Gloden may pay more than twice as much as a family in Sengeri. This means that even when infrastructure exists, some households may still be excluded because they cannot afford the connection cost or to pay monthly payments. Please, next one. So between 2020 and 2025, we identified around 33 major projects, water and sanitation projects, in these 3 districts just, and with around 13 million euros. This shows that public investments are being made. So our conclusion is not that there is no financing. The issue is how this financing is planned, who benefits from it, and whether it integrates gender, vulnerability, and climate risks. We can say that climate-related finance is partially aligned with local priorities because access to water is a real and urgent need. However, it is not sufficiently inclusive. Sanitation is underfinanced. Household level access is not always ensured, and the gender and vulnerability is not systematically implemented in the planning stage. Next one, please. So if we talk about climate risk and water security, we identify several important gaps. First one is the project rarely include detailed climate risk assessment, such as drought, groundwater depletion, or extreme weather events. Many rural households still rely on vulnerable water sources, which are vulnerable to drought and contamination. And also infrastructure is often designed for normal weather condition, while medium and long-term climate scenarios are usually missing. And also underdeveloped sanitation also increases environmental and health risk, especially in communities that depends only on wells. So that's why water and sanitation projects should be treated not only as infrastructure, but also as climate adaptation measures. Next one. Based on our findings, we propose several recommendations to the institution. First one is public authorities should collect better data disaggregated by gender, age, household type, and vulnerability level, because they collect data, but it's just general information. Second, gender and climate analysis should be included from the planning stage and not just monitoring or evaluation. Third, authorities should assess not only whether networks are built, but also whether households can actually connect and can afford this. Fourth, investments in sewerage infrastructure should be accelerated, especially in rural areas. Also, women, elderly people, families with children, vulnerable groups should be included in local planning. And our broader recommendation is that public investment should reduce inequalities and strengthen climate resilience. The next one. To conclude, through this project, we connect three perspectives: water and sanitation infrastructure, climate change adaptation, and gender equality. The research showed that important investments are being made, but the impact remains unequal. There are progress, but also some communities remain behind. There are networks, but not always connected households. And there is investment in water, but less investment in sanitation. So the main lesson for us and the campaign, so to say, message was that the infrastructure should not be only measured in kilometers of network, it should be measured in improved lives. So thank you once again for the invitation and for the opportunity to share the result. This is our page. So we wish all the members of network good luck and success in their important work.
Daniela, thank you so much for a great comprehensive presentation. And this is a very specific topic, and I'm very much looking forward to our discussion session to hear more about this. Now we will hear about gender mainstreaming and climate policies and budgets in Montenegro, presented by Katica Maksan from CEDM Podgorica. Katica, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much again for inviting me. Happy to be here and represent Montenegro in such an important discussion. I will be very quick to not take up a lot of time, and hopefully I will manage to share my screen. Entire screen. Okay. To see if it's working. Okay, so yes, this is the project that CEDEM was doing for a year, from January last year until December last year, and it involved one analysis, which is called integration of gender equality into climate politics and budgets in Montenegro, and it was done by our climate specialist and gender specialist Aleksandra Gligorovic. The project also included one social media and a social media campaign, which was carefully chosen to show these subjects through a series of podcasts, where we tried to have a conversation with different experts and people directly involved in this subject about those matters. For today, I tried to summarize the main things we managed to do with this research that Alexandra did, which I was also involved by helping her to find people who would honestly talk about. Of course, Montenegro is in its way to become an EU member state, but also there is a big journey ahead of us connected to gender equality in general. So for today, I try to just present some different things we try to do with this analysis. The first thing we did was a really good and comprehensive methodology that Alexandra built, and it was mapping all the people we had to have conversation with, all the institution we had to ask for help, all the emails we had to send and where to send them to get the best answer. So what we did is we send a lot of SPs or to ask for information that was publicly available, and for all the documents that would provide information about all the ministries, all the climate agencies, everyone who could give us any information about at what point is gender considered when discussing climate change. So we were trying to see all the laws, all the strategies, all local action plans, and how they basically involved women and girls, especially women from rural areas, women with disabilities, but also every person with disabilities. And we had to have a spotlight on young people and all the vulnerable groups. In Montenegro, that's mostly a Roma community. So we had some focus on who does the planning, are women, children, and vulnerable groups involved, who gains the most from budgeting, is who benefits from public spending, and who decides or who makes the decisions about where that budget will be spent. So, as I said, the methodology included desk research, freedom of information requests, some interviews wherever the requests were not complete, or we felt like we could get more information in person. And we did alignment metrics, which is checking if the standards, documents, budgets, and indicators are all complementary. And of course, you can read the whole document on CEDEM's website. Sadly, it is for now only in a Montenegrin language, but if anyone is interested, I could provide an English version, of course, in the future. So we managed to analyze climate framework and basically all the draft laws and laws that are in works in Montenegro, gender equality framework, especially when discussing gender equality law and national strategy. Here is of course important to say that there is a new gender equality law drafting in Montenegro at this moment, as are many other strategies and local action plans. So this analysis will be different in the future. We analyzed available budget from this national and local municipalities, and the sectors we try to investigate are of course energy, traffic, agriculture, water, health, tourism, forestry, and waste management, of course, related to different ministries in Montenegro. And of course, the special attention was given to education and science. So we all tried to have a spotlight on gender responsive budgeting and how it's considered in Montenegro, climate budget tagging system and if it exists, and of course the just transition. Here are some existing frames. I will not read the whole, but those are frames that are in action in Montenegro. So we analyze the gender aspects of them. We also analyze where the practice is not related to policy, where do they diverge. So there's a whole table in the research where you can clearly see what is only existing in policies and completely different in reality. And we separated that research into national level and the capacities of institutions, the data, and how if institutions have the data, which is gender segregated, which they mostly don't, if they are experienced in any way to discuss gender budgeting, which they are mostly not, how the budget is separated to in different ways and how the gender is considered, and of course the coordination between different institutions in this area. And of course the most important fact is that there are 0 gender marked climate change budget lines in analyzed documents, and there are many documents that we managed to analyze. So the focus was also on children and young people and the strategies that involve them, and of course all the strategies or the lack of strategies that are focused on Roma people in Montenegro. Of course the research show what we already knew or partially new, is that women in rural areas, especially in the north part of Montenegro, Roma women with disabilities are not included in strategies, are not prioritized, are not discussed specifically. Their needs are not discussed in Montenegro. So of course, the final research has a separate part that has recommendations about what should be done in the future, considering that Montenegro is right now working on closing the chapter 27, which is focused on climate change and is also needed to be closed before we enter EU. So the final part of the research considers different recommendations, basically how to the need to integrate gender responsive budgeting into budget laws, also in local and national plans, how it's important to introduce mandatory gender analysis before doing any sort of strategy, how it's important to develop a national methodology for data collection, because there in the research it is also included which institutions do not have any data considering gender. So how gender and age sensitive budgets should be tagged in local levels, how the role of gender mechanisms should be formalized, how there should be a standard system for collecting sex and age disaggregated data to include a legal obligation for every institution as a sort of incentive to actually do what is required by law to do, because there is a specific part of a law that provides this. How a gender and climate sensitive budget tagging should be able to clarify who benefits from public spending, etc., etc. So all these recommendations are included in the final part of the research, with a clear quote that we decided to include is that climate justice in Montenegro will be real as the policies that recognize women, girls, and marginalized groups as right holders, knowledge holders, and decision makers. So I tried to make that as quick as possible, considering that we all have so much to say, but I'm also here, of course, available for all the questions. Thank you.
Katica, thank you. Thank you so much. You hit the 10-minute mark, which was great. Okay, thank you for your insights, and I'm sure that we will have a lot to discuss in the discussion session. Now from NGO Mosaic, Ana Vukicevic and Blagoje Sturanovic will present the initiative of strengthening resilience of women with disabilities, the climate change in the Western Balkans. Anka and Blagoje, welcome.
Greetings
to you all. Thank you for the invitation. Greetings to all our colleagues and representatives of donors. It is our pleasure to present to you our project today, which starting assumption was very simple but demanding. We had climate policies and climate financing and stances that it will not be just until all changes are taken into account. Changes that affect the most vulnerable category of our community, which is women with disability. In order to check what's the case in Western Balkans, we had a call for three organizations: NVO, Mosaic, us, and Association of Bosnia and Herzegovina persons with cerebral palsy and with persons with disability from Serbia. We started all this story together within the regional initiative in order for us to establish how local and national mechanism and climate financing is directed towards the needs of most vulnerable groups. We had a number of activities in all three states. First, we enhanced the capacities of change carriers. We had some trainings in Herzegovina, in Montenegro, in Simon Milošević Institute, where we had more than 40 participants and 32 persons with disabilities. The training included gender-responsive budgeting, gender equality, feminism approach to invalidity, disability, and the effect of climate changes to women with disabilities with prism of multiple and intersectoral discrimination. Later on, we had the research. All the organizations used combination of methods, questionnaires, and requests for free access to information, which we sent to competent institutions to desk analysis, strategic plans analysis, and analysis of budgetary allocations. Later on, we drafted, based on this research, we had 3 professional analyses in Montenegro. We had a set of questions sent to the Ministry of to the ministries, to local state governments in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We had general analysis as a response to climate changes in Sarajevo, and in Serbia we also had for Belgrade and Savski Venac municipalities analysis. We sent requests to ministries and secretariats. Through this analysis we have conducted in 3 states, we somehow established that the most important finding of this analysis, and which is common for all these states, is this: competent institutions don't have a special particular institution or person that is in charge of climate change resilience. This has shown in our Ministry of Health, Ministry of Social Welfare, and also in Municipality of Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also, what we later on established, that the system of collection of disbursement of gender-sensitive, gender-responsive data is not developed. Also, information procedures and systems for early warning of climate emergencies are not available to persons with disabilities. Also, we can say that multi-sectoral cooperation for gender equality, social protection, and protection of environment is weak. Also, major issue, what we have seen is that in our local communities there is no local action plan to enhance, to improve resilience to climate changes within our secretariats. Since there is no such planning framework, there is no budgetary line that would follow these local priorities. This would mean that climate financing flows are not adjusted to real needs of the communities, well, in particular with women, for women with disabilities as some of the most vulnerable group. These are the findings of analysis, and I would like to give floor to Anka Vukcevic, our project coordinator, to emphasize what is most important within our organization, that is visibility and inclusion of local community, in order for us to be able to present the inclusion as it should be. Greetings from me. Thanks to the network for cooperation. If our institution would cooperate as we cooperate within the network, then the system would function very well. For every issue that we faced, we had a great support from network members, and I want to thank them now for the extraordinary cooperation. As Blago said, in Igalo, we had some education activities, and what I would like to emphasize that we did not stay only on having persons with disabilities and women with disability as participants, but we had also students of medical faculty of University of Montenegro. We included members of Simo Milošević Institute from Igalo, where the education was held, and this institute in Igalo is the greatest health center in Mediterranean area, and by this we sent a message that young generation should be included in climate changes, problematics, rights of persons with disabilities, because our policies have to have the future, and young generations will build the future. Of course, also some 3 round tables were held, and I would like to emphasize that in Igalo we had a promotion of book Interdisciplinary Approach in Rehabilitation of Persons with Cerebral Palsy. In Igalo we had also 16 NGOs from 16 cities of the region. It was not easy to organize the transport, only transport for the person with disabilities, to secure adequate accommodation, and we are proud for all those activities that have been implemented in a way that we and the participants all of us are satisfied. Also, 3 roundtables were held where results of the analysis were presented. 45 participants took place from different spheres of local communities. Also, 3 murals were painted in Belgrade, Sarajevo, and Nikšić. And on this photo, you can see a waterfall Skakavica that is painted on the wall of secondary medical school. And this nice area should be accessible to persons with disabilities, and in general, all 3 murals symbolize effect of climate changes to persons with disabilities and the need to adjust this to persons with disabilities. This is the mural that is constructed in Belgrade on the elementary school wall. This is mural in Nikšić and is on the wall of the premise where 4 NGOs from Nikšić were placed. And I have to point out that while we were working on this mural, passers-by were interested to know what we do, what we want to warn our community, and some of them joined us in building these murals. All our activities are intensively followed in media, through donor pages, to organization pages, and we were guests in TV stations, and we tried to make the project visible. And when we take into account our students who took part, how much this was important to young people, how they share it through Instagram, Twitter, and then where else. And also,
U projekte aktivnosti ukupno bilo je uključeno 80 osoba, znači
80% were involved.
Osnažene su žene s invaliditetom, što jeste bio naš primarni cilj, ali uključivanjem šire zajednice
involving wider community, I think we achieved our primary goal.
Opština Nikšić,
Municipality of Nikšić, I want to point out
njihove aktivnosti. Znači, u prošloj godini usvojen je lokalni akcioni plan za rodnu ravnopravnost, tako da pred nama je veliki broj aktivnosti koji je planiran kroz akcioni plan i nadam se da ćemo se i u budućnosti imati čim pohvaliti. Još jednom zahvaljujem na saradnji.
Anka, Blagoje, thank you so much. This is such wonderful news, and I have to say that I
Hvala
have
vam
seen
puno,
the
ovo je
mural
predivna
in
vesti.
Sarajevo
Ja sam srećna da
as
kažem
well.
da sam videla mural u Sarajevu također.
So I was super happy with the
Tako da
results.
sam
So
zaista
what I
bila
want
zadovoljna
to say is
rezultatima.
keep up the good work.
Hoću samo da kažem, nastavite sa dobrim radom.
Last,
I na
but certainly
kraju,
not least,
ali ne i
Elena
najmanje
Đebrea
važno,
from ACPD
Elona
will present their
Đebreu
findings
iz
from
ACPD-a koja će
monitoring
predstaviti
gender-responsive budgeting
svoje
and climate change
nalaze što se
financing in the
tiče
municipality
rodno
of Škoda.
odgovornog finansiranja i budžetiranja klimatskih promjena iz Skadra.
Good afternoon.
Dobar dan.
To everybody and thank you for having me
Pozdrav
here.
svima. Hvala vam što ste me pozvali.
I'm Nahođa and I'm here on behalf of the Albanian Center for Population Development. Today I would like to share work that we
Danas
carry
bih
out
htjela da podijelim sve ono čime se bavimo.
Network, together in partnership with
Pošto smo zajedno u partnerstvu sa I također bih htjela, ja se izvinjavam, jako je loša veza.
A close look at how one municipality, Škodra, invests in climate resilience and whether this investment actually reaches everyone they are meant to be and to serve. And this sits right at the beginning point of the question. We to open treat separately how we finance our response to climate change
finansiramo
and how we make
bavimo
sure
se
that the
promjenama
response is
klimatske
fair
promjene,
to
kako
women,
ćemo se
men,
postariti
and
da
to the most vulnerable people in our communities.
žene budu jedne od najodgovornijih ljudi u našem
Within the
društvu.
Gender Budget Watchdog Network project, ACPD, Albanian Center for Population and
U
Development,
okviru
as I
ovog
said, in
projekta
collaboration with
i u
EADC,
okviru saradnjom sa EADC
monitoring and
mi
assessment
smo
the
sprovodili
municipality
sveobuhvatan
Škodra
monitoring i
2024
procjenu u opštini Skadar
2025 budget. We focus on the meeting point
sa
between the
fokusom
gender responsive budgeting,
na
GRB
rodno
for
odgovorno
short, and climate change.
budžetiranje.
We examined the programs where the climate and people most clearly intersect: civil protection, environment management, public services, infrastructure, transport, forestry, water management, and local economic development. But the question driving us was
Što
not
se
only
tiče
how we match the municipality invest in climate resilience. The harder, more important questions was
ali još važnije pitanje
from that
jeste
investment, because the budget can look green on paper but still leave people behind.
zato što sve može izgledati zeleno na papiru i u redu, ali ja se izvinjavam, ali ovdje se ništa ne čuje.
The budget allocation 2024-2025, second, a review of municipality strategic and planning documents to understand its stated priorities. Third, an analysis of performance indicators that municipality uses to track delivery. And fourth, an assessment of climate-related public expenditure across all these programs. We took also the evidence out of the report, convening a workshop in Škodra together with our partner, the Gender Development Center, to discuss the findings directly with people who shape and use this budget. So, Škodra, what we defined. So the good news first, Škodra allocates the significant resources to climate-related sectors,
Skadar izdvoji resurse što se tiče klimatskih promjena.
Spaces and forestry, transport and civil protection. These are real meaningful investment in resilience.
Također se tiče zelenih prostorija, transporta i civilne zaštite, ali uprkos tome imamo 3 stavke.
How many kilometers of canals were cleaned, how many hectares of forests were rehabilitated, how many tons of waste were collected. useful numbers, but they rarely tell us
Ovo
who
su
actually
korisni
benefits.
brojevi, ali nam zaista
Second,
retko
gender
govore koji su
segregated data are largely
koristi.
missing.
Drugo,
Now, breaking the
rodno
data
raspoređeni
down,
podaci
we
koji
cannot
nedostaju.
tell whether
Bez ovih
women and
podataka
men
ne možemo
benefit
reći da
equally
li
from municipalities'
žene
spending.
i muškarci
And
u
the
ovim
third,
opštinama
climate
i
spending is
treće,
not clearly identified in the budget.
potrošnja što se tiče klime nije
Although it is
identifikovana u
not
budžetu.
taxed, it's very hard to track how much
Veoma
goes
je
to adaptation,
teško
disaster risk reduction, or to environmental protection, or whether matches local priorities. So, the overall picture is a municipality with a solid technical planning framework, but one that needs stronger links between planning, budgeting, implementation, and measurable social outcomes. Now, how we did act it? Our advocacy was
kako smo mi
evidence-based
postupali.
from start
Mi
to
smo
finish.
postupali na
It
osnovu
combines
dokaza od
technical
početka do
rigor
kraja
with constructive dialogue. We begin
uz
by turning the monitoring finding into the
ograničeni
practical recommendations,
dijalog i mi
concrete
smo
ways to
planiranje
strengthen both
monitoringa
gender-responsive budgeting
implementirali
and
na osnovu
climate
rodno
finance
odgovornog budžetiranja.
municipality level. We took then recommendation into the direct dialogue with the municipality representatives and local stakeholders, make the case for gender-sensitive indicators, for climate budget tagging, and for stronger monitoring built into the budgeting process. And alongside, we work to raise
I
public
pored toga
awareness,
mi smo
explain
radili na podizanju
what
javne
gender
svesti da
responsive budgeting
objasnimo
means in practice,
šta je rodno
and to
odgovorno
encourage
budžetiranje
citizens
u
to
praksi
engage more in
i
local
da
decision making.
ohrabrimo
And I want to
građane
be
da
clear
učestvuju
about the
više
spirit
u
of this
donošenju
work.
odluka.
Our aim was never simply to point out shortcomings. It was
Hoću
to support the
da kažem
municipality
na kraju
of transparent remote accounts. And the approach to reproduce real results. The most important was monitoring report itself and
što se tiče
evidence
monitoring izveštaja.
how municipality budget contribute to both climate resilience and gender equality. The report also reframed how we see Škodra situations. The municipality already has many of budget instruments it needs for climate resilience, but the opportunity isn't to build everything from scratch. It would already exist more inclusive and more measurable. Recommendations we developed are
Preporuke
so
su
practical and
donete
graduate to step the municipality can take without overhauling
i
its
sadrže
entire
korake
budget
koje
system, focus
opštine
on
mogu
transparency, accountability, and fair
preduzeti
benefits
na osnovu
from future
transparentnosti,
climate.
odgovornosti i
We
podijeljenih
also identify a lot
benefita.
of gaps.
Također
The
ima
gaps
puno
that have
nedostataka koji
everything.
su identifikovani
Without this evidence, it is difficult to judge
i
the real
bez
impact
ovih
of
dokaza
climate change
teško je
and
presuditi koji je
finance
zaista
storage,
utjecaj
or
klimatskih
whether it
promjena.
is generally reducing the inequalities that already exist. So two questions often come out at this point, and let me address them directly. The first, to what extent is the climate finance aligned with local-led priorities? Our answer is partially. So the municipality funds many activities that direct build climate resilience, but not systematically linked with the local identified priorities. Second, is the
Drugo,
municipality meeting its climate commitment?
opštinski sastanak i
We can
obaveze
say
što
a
tiče
positive
klimatskih
story
promjena.
because the
Mi
Škodra has
možemo
shown real
navesti jednu
commitment,
pozitivnu priču
often
zato
across
što
several
Skadar
resilient
predstavlja jedan
sectors, using
pozitivan
indicators
primjer
and sector
gdje
plans
se koriste
to guide
pokazatelji.
implementation. So again, I might say that
Tako da, još jednom ja ću reći,
this work, let's say, points towards is a climate finance that is transparent, accountable, and equitable, underpinning by stronger links between planning, budgeting, implementation, and the social outcomes that actually matter its people's life. If we get those links right, climate investment in Škodra and in places like it can deliver fair and measurable benefits for women, men, and for the vulnerable communities who need them most. Thank you very much. I do apologize for
hvala vam
that
puno, ja
I
se
was
izvinjavam.
talking a bit quick.
Malo
I
sam
just
govorila
wanted to
brzo,
keep the time
ali
limit
sam
that we have,
htjela
but
da
of
se
course
držim
very
vremena
open
koje
for
imam,
any question that you might
ali
have.
otvorena sam
Thank
za
you very
bilo
much,
koje
and
pitanje
also
koje
for
imate. Hvala vam puno.
gender budgeting, gender
Također
budget
što se
watchdog
tiče rodnog budžetiranja,
for supporting us, and again as a Gender Alliance Development Agency for supporting us and being a very good partner in our country.
Alona, thank you so much for sharing
hvala vam
these
puno što ste
information with
podijelili
us.
ove informacije sa nama.
So we have finished with the
Mi smo
presentation part
završili
of
sa
today's webinar.
prezentacijom.
Ние завършихме со презентацијата.
And right now we can open the questions and discussions part of the webinar. So please, if you will use the reactions, the raised hand reactions in the lower toolbar, if you have any additional questions or comments for our presenters.
Yes. Ja sam sačekala dovoljno vremena da vidim da li će biti pitanja, komentara, učešća u diskusiji i rekla bih da sam bila strpljiva, da bar dok sam digla ruku ih nije bilo. Htjela sam da kažem da je meni, eto, nacionalna sam koordinatorka iz Crne Gore ovog programa već 8 godina i meni je bilo izuzetno prijatno slušati kakvi su se sve rezultati, rekla bih vrlo mjerljivi, vrlo opipljivi, postigli u ovom periodu. I ono što mi je jako važno da kažem da je Lamia bila odlična jer joj je ovo prvo moderiranje ove vrste u ovom projektu. Samo toliko. Dakle, ako ste smislili, imate neka pitanja, komentare, sugestije za nas, sve su zaista dobrodošle. Hvala.
Thank you so much, Slavica, for your kind words. And yes, I would absolutely agree. The topics discussed today were super important, and the insights shared were great. And I am very much looking forward to reading the reports and the plans and so on, to catch up with those, because I haven't had the opportunity to read them all, but I definitely will. So anyone, any other additional questions, comments? Yes, Miodrag, I think that everything is fine at this point. Thank you. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, I don't see any raised hands. I think maybe that we can wrap it up for today. So I would definitely like to thank all of our presenters for your inspiring examples and results that you shared today with us. And I would like to highlight that that these success stories are not just mere success stories, but they are in a way a roadmap for all of us to gather positive examples and to try and mitigate and modify what we can in our own communities for using your examples. So thank you for that. And also I would like to thank all of our participants for your attention and engagement. And I hope that we will have the opportunity to discuss many more positive developments in this and other areas in the future. Thank you again, and I hope we'll be seeing you soon.